Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devin Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Sejan Sarowick. Sejan?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to an episode that is going to be very near and dear to my holiday heart. Special, if you would, quite special. This is going to be a good one, guys. I'm very excited today, Dev.
And third time is apparently the charm, though we're talking about the second movie. But if you were here at Say headquarters, you'd understand why I said third time's the charm. But the best part about this special episode, this very important episode for Sejan's holiday, is that this is a time capsule episode. We haven't done one of these in a long time, which is the craziest thing. I think we've only missed like 2 Mondays for 2021. I don't want to like give ourselves a pat on the back, but if I pat your back, you can pat my back.
Yeah, but and the thing is like this is a planned one too. Like, let's not go too deep into how the sausage is made, but like guys, hey, yo, it's Christmas, and we decided we were going to put an episode up for you that we recorded a little out of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even Christmas. It's the 27th of December, which honestly, there's nothing significant about the 27th of December. It's the second day of Christmas, so I guess 2 turtle doves. Holy shit, are we the smartest people in the world doing the second Ninja Turtles movie on our time capsule episode that drops on 2 Turtle Doves Day?
Yeah, 2 Turtle Doves Day. That's officially the name of it for the rest of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
So,
yeah, no, we're the best. Yeah.
We're certainly not just fumbling around in the dark, hoping to fall into an abandoned subway station that we can make our lair for the next 2 movies and a TV show.
I've heard the sewers in Connecticut are nice.
Are there sewers in Connecticut? I don't think
don't have
there are.
Right? So no.
They have a sewage treatment plant that belongs to John Oliver, mortal enemy of the Say Report. Yeah, so what we're doing now is a time capsule episode, so it's removed from space and time. For these episodes, we try to focus on something older so that anything we say about it won't be changed between the time that we record it and then release it to you.
Man, I didn't realize we were going to do a behind the scenes on this one, like a pop-up video of Say Report. I'm excited we are. This is just a lot more detail than I think we've ever given before.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, we usually start off every time capsule episode with a variation on this same explanation. I'm not kidding though. It has been so long since we've recorded a time capsule episode of this show. I honestly couldn't tell you what it was. Yeah, was Beavis and Butthead a time capsule episode?
Yeah, I think so. And we did that one again, planned like totally on purpose. It wasn't even like, oops all berries. Like, here's your Say Report episode.
Oh, we're gonna be busy this Monday.
Yeah, but the man, it's just I both am very excited you're saying this much and not, because I have everything to say about this movie and not anything to say. About this movie.
Then let me finish my preamble, and then we'll get to talking about this movie. Sejan,
I just want to point that out.
What'd you say?
The pre-ramble. There's a word for that. It's like you were that close. Sorry,
Isn't it preamble?
Preamble, but yeah.
Preamble. Okay. It's a portmanteau of pre and ramble. I'm an idiot. This movie melts my mind in so many ways.
I know. I am on board with that exact sentiment. This movie is drugs, kids. like we'll get into it.
Yeah, this movie is drugs is a pretty fitting. I think they put that on the original posters. Like, that's what Laird and Eastman wanted on the poster, but then Golden Harvest was like, no.
No, we can't, no. We'll let you fight in this one, at least. Please, give it.
All right, but the crazy thing is, right, and the reason why I was doing all that talking about time capsule episodes is because it does not feel like it was only 1 year ago that we talked about the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I may misremember this, but I remember us gushing, right? Like, it's a movie to gush over.
We gushed. I've always gushed over that movie. Even when I was a little boy, I gushed over that movie. Yep.
And there's something really beautiful about how direct of a sequel this movie truly is to that one. And so I guess what I'm getting at is don't be surprised if we get some more, because man, I miss the days when movies dared to be stupid, to borrow a phrase from the great philosopher Yankovic. Like I just can't. Man, I miss the days that there is like a good quality made movie that I can watch and the entire time just think to myself, this is so dumb.
So while Siegen gushes, I'm actually probably going to introduce a theory that this is a completely different timeline from the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
But like, oh my god, everything from Shredder showing up literally in the dump because that's where he was.
Like, one day has passed. Casey
as if
Jones
one day has
murdered
passed.
the Shredder in a garbage truck last night. And now today, it's so crazy. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Secret of the Ooze is insane. It does not give a damn about the timeline that was established in the movie before, while also being so beholden to canon points from that freaking movie. It doesn't. It wants to have its pizza and eat it too, and
just like everybody else in fucking New York in this movie. Oh my god!
Everybody eats pizza in New York.
Everybody loves pizza. It's New York.
All right, I'm gonna start with one other thing before we really delve into the movie. It's a little more personal thing like that. I did not see this movie until I had my adenoids removed in 92. So this is not a movie that I saw in theaters. This is not a movie that I saw the tape of, right? Like, I watched the tape of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles so many times, but then I had an adenoid removal and was like just stuck in bed, and a friend, probably Ashton, I was friends with an Ashton. He wasn't Kutcher. I think he wasn't Kutcher. I can't be 100% certain
This movie was just him
that.
punking you. It was a gift to the universe. A punk to Devin and a gift to the universe.
But so he gave me a tape of this movie and I watched it and I'm like, okay, I guess. Like, I didn't even really like it then. It was just like mindless entertainment as I recovered from major 7-year-old surgery.
This movie is what everybody thinks every sequel is. like when people talk about movies just being cash grabs, repeats of the first, nothing added, no substance, literally just like a greatest hits, like all of those critiques that you always hear applied to sequels nowadays. That is this movie is the
this is the
why,
trope setter.
Yeah, this is the trendsetter for half-assed work on a sequel. But then this movie always moves in two directions, because you say that, but then man, some of the puppetry that's on display in this movie is clearly built on from the first movie and so good. And like they've clearly learned so much from making the first movie and other projects in between to then make this one. So like there is some work in this movie that is straight up art. It is artistry on display in this movie.
Yeah,
not in the script, not in the acting.
All right, so where do we start with this? Where do we start with this movie? Because
what is the plot line of this movie? Like, for anybody that I can't imagine this, but for anybody that does not know the plot of this movie, if you press play on the Say Report talks about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Secret of the Ooze, and you have not watched the movie yet / have not had this movie burned into your brain, like, go do yourself a favor.
Yeah, he's got go. It's on Peacock. It is on HBO Max. Like, is out there on the streaming services, and I have to imagine that if you listen to the Say Report, you have at least one of those.
Well, and want to just sidebar, just because this is the Say Report, so I don't have to stay on task every moment. The first time that I've really kind of picked up on the idea, this is the first season I've really started to pick up on the idea that movies are starting to be available on more than one streaming service at a time. And more on that, at a later date. But yeah, what a weird realization to realize this was available in multiple places, and that's been happening also with some of my my Christmas things that I've been doing. And I just thought, well, it's Christmas, but then to see this, an actual movie, I was thrown a little bit for a loop.
And I don't want to tell people to go to one streaming service over another. We're not sponsored by any of the streaming services. We use all of them to consume entertainment.
I mean, we
But
want to be. Just saying.
yeah, that's a good point. Lock us down. Just come to us and say we want the exclusive rights to the Say Report. I think we'd sell out in a second to a streaming service. I don't want to speak for Siegen, but he said it first.
HBO, you got to get me in there, and you got to get me hosting those reunion specials, because I can cry at some 20-year-old TV. I am promising you that.
And I'll get in there to just be like, I never watched your show, but I'll talk to you. I'll treat you like a normal person.
You'll be one of the new Topia hosts. Whatever Topia they get. Podtopia. You'll become a podcasting game show host.
That sounds, actually, I don't hate what you just said. There's just so much content for podcasting if you're going to do a game show. And well, it should be Will who becomes the quiz person, right?
No. He's the walk around the stage host. You're the at the table host.
Gotcha.
Right?
I gotcha. I feel that a lot. I don't know what we're doing. All I want to say is watch it on Peacock, but only because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, which I don't think I'm overstepping, if the Say Report still exists in 2023, that's going to be your Christmas episode.
Are you kidding me? As far as the Turtles go, we've got content for the next 4 years and beyond. Because if anything happens in the next few years, hell, we can start talking about all the TV shows. No, yes, we will be talking about Turtles for Christmas for the rest of time.
Turtles for Christmas that's a Say Report tradition now since we started it last year.
Tradition. I am so no. The 2 times makes it a pattern, man.
That's all it takes. But on Peacock, for some reason, the title of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 is The Scrolls of Death.
Which is, to be fair, its actual name in a couple of other important places. I think IMDb. I'd have to double check that.
IMDb changed it to that.
It is well, okay, but it is. I'm just saying. It seems like they've decided that is the fucking subtitle of that movie, which I don't.
There was no subtitle when it came out. It was just Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. And then piggybacking on the success of Turtles in Time, that's what everybody started to call it.
I was going to say that's what I always called it growing up.
Yeah.
And I thought I was about to admit something terrible. I'm so glad you covered my ass.
Well, no, dude, there's actually a DVD release that calls the third Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies Turtles in Time. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We need to talk about Secret of the Ooze. But Siegen gave me sort of an impossible task to describe the plot of this movie. And this is not Adam Sandler's Cinematic Universe, and I was so happy that I didn't need to write my usual synopsis for Secret of the Ooze, because I'm like, I don't know what I would say. The turtles find out that some green stuff made them themselves. And
I can send you a 60-page comic book that pretty much sums it up.
64 pages, thank you very much. And I'm good friends with the guys who did the cover, Jim Lawson and Steve Levine. I dropped some names there, but I was actually really happy when I looked up that comic book adaptation to see that they were the guys who did the cover artwork on it, because it's a good-looking cover. It's a weird adaptation of the story.
I was gonna say it's a pretty fucking faithful one, to be honest.
It's faithful, but it's super interesting. They have to change up some of the licensed stuff, like it's not Vanilla Ice at the end, and Toka and Razar start to react to the anti-mutagen far earlier than they do in the actual movie, because
like something about them burping.
Yeah,
right?
Like it's just. It's weird how they do it, but the reason
we should we should wait a minute. No, before we get away from the comic book, because we're not going to talk about it beyond this, we should talk about something really quick. And this was a thing, right? Like the idea that at a time when VHS tapes cost no shitting you $80, like people may not remember or realize that. Like at a time when when the take home price of a VHS was unreasonable, to say the least, the way of getting stories into kids' hands was always something like a novelization or a comic book, right? And the thing is that the Turtles had this amazing benefit of already being a comic beforehand, but this is kind of like the Turtles in these comics are not your normal Turtles from the comics, right? Like there's definitely some changes to attitudes and language and things like that and color that I am aware of, to fit the movie representation, right?
Yeah. So significantly, one of the reasons why I sent you this adaptation is I wasn't aware. I didn't know if you were aware of it. And the adaptations of 2 and 3 are so faithful that they were actually a disappointment to the comic book community, because the first movie's adaptation is actually, it's all black and white. It is original art by Eastman and Laird, taking that story and putting it to like the page. And also because they were very close with the director, Steve Barron, he said, you guys can do whatever you want. You can go off the original script. It doesn't need to be a one-to-one faithful of the script, right? You can put everything in there. So,
yeah, but that's not the point of these particular types of comics,
and
right?
but that's very much because that one, it has all the cut scenes, all the stuff with like Michelangelo actually having a story at the farm, and the scene at the end where April tries to sell her drawings to a comic book guy, and he's like, nobody will buy these.
Yeah.
So it's this faithful, but also very. That one is so important to like fans of the comic books for them being able to own that copy of that story in that way.
Yeah.
And it didn't sell very well. I have like 8 copies of it because in 2012 I toured Mirage Studios, and at the end I was just handed a box of like comics that they had excess of.
Yeah, like, we're gonna burn these if you don't take them.
It's
so
like,
just take them.
Thanks for stopping by. Like, I just reached out to, and I'm like, hey, like, you're right there. I'm gonna be in town for business. Is there any way I can come by the studio to pick up some items that you have for sale on the site? And he's like, no, just come by, and we'll have a good time. And got to hang out, and it was completely unremoved from anything else. This is before I knew any of the other people that I ended up meeting Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle wise. But I got like 8 copies of this book, and I read it, and I'm like, why is there so many overrun of this? And he's like, it's not what people wanted. Here's the second one. And he handed me a copy of the second one, and I'm like, oh yeah. Even down to the fact that Dean Clarrain, who was writing the Archie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic books, is the person who scripts out the adaptation of Secret of the Ooze and later, the Scrolls of Death.
The Scrolls of Death. Yeah, man. I'm reading. I was just reading it, and I was like, "This is phenomenal. This is great." But this is also not the Turtles from the comics that
No, it's not even the Turtle. It's weird because the movie Ninja Turtles, if there were a multiverse of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, would be a unique location in the multiverse.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly strange to me. But
it's actually
also
not even that far of a stretch when you consider all of the like time traveling and like Yojimbo and all that shit. Like, well, eventually, when you start talking about just talking about going into other versions of themselves and things.
I mean, they've done that so many times now. Turtles Forever sees them meet the 87 Turtles, meet the 2003 Turtles, and then meet the original 1984 comic Turtles. But like the movie Turtles, they don't really register there. But the movie Ninja Turtles are a unique iteration of the Turtles.
So one, right, definitely feels very super unique in that way. This feels so much just like episodes of the show to me. Like, not one for sure, but it feels like what the note was after the first movie is like, okay, now there's this cartoon, and that's what really is everybody's attached to. So like, do that, but like make it a sequel to the first one. And like that's the only note they were given in writing. So like it feels like there's so much more that happens in this movie that is like straight out of the show style, like specifically like some of the comedic bits when they're fighting, right? Like fighting in the toy store or fighting with the meat from the deli and things like that. Like that sort of silly crap that happens mixed with the mutations that show up later on. Like that feels very much like it's straight out of the cartoon show as well, versus what happens in the first movie, where it feels like it's much more about like the only thing that's really weird in that universe is the Turtles. Beyond that, like they're talking about like street gangs, they're talking about the idea of like this underground cabal, like that. None of this feels like it's like cartoonish, whereas in this one everything felt cartoonish to me.
Yeah, I mean, the Foot Clan in the first movie feels like a well-oiled criminal organization.
Which, like, borders on cult, and that's scary.
Yeah.
But not in this one.
But it's also, it's not, this film does not reflect the Foot that we saw in that first movie at all. Like, exactly. I know the cops raided the warehouse, but I find it hard to believe that, like, the Foot Clan, what still exists in Japan, wouldn't send over reinforcements to help you clean up this mess.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that stems from the fact that, script-wise, Laird and Eastman were like, don't put the Shredder in the second movie.
we killed him. We crushed him. We did a murder most foul to him at the end of that movie.
In fact, how about we pitch this scene to you? It opens with a guy walking through the dump, and he passes by the mangled helmet of Shredder. And that is how we start off this movie, saying, oh, by the way, Shredder is dead. And they're like, but the kids want Shredder. And he's like, yeah, but we bring him back for the third movie, and nobody sees it coming. And they're like, no. What else you got? And they're like, well, we could just adapt the second issue of the series, have Baxter Stockman with some mousers.
Is there anything more classic than a movie studio ignoring a comic creator's cry to draw things out just a little bit longer? Like, give me 3 movies to tell this story. We'll give you 2. Okay, please 3. Nope, now it's down to 1. Say it again, and you don't get to make this movie.
Yeah, it's... Well, I mean, you need to put yourself in the shoes of Golden Harvest, and I think Golden Harvest is the best place to start, because they back that first movie. It is an independent film, the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, that then gets picked up for broader release and everything like that. But at the time, it is the most successful independent film in the world, right? In 1990 when it releases.
Yeah.
And then, Quentin Tarantino, cinematographer, is hired on the back of her work on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then goes on to work with him on all of his films. Yeah. Like, we've talked about it before. There's another episode that's called I Made a Funny, where, like, it's important to cinema, that first Ninja Turtles movie. And Golden Harvest is sitting there saying, like, holy shit, we made a shit ton of money off of this movie. We need to keep this train a-rolling, because the end of the track could be any day now. So if we don't get a sequel in front of these people, we're going to lose the money.
We bought a lot of cocaine on credit.
Yeah. So they're like, we need a sequel now. So they immediately pitch other existing stories from the comics, and they're like, no, but what about the TV show that's out there?
What about the thing that we already know makes money? How about that thing instead?
And they're like, and so that's what they do. Now, credit to the fact that Eastman and Laird are able to say, you're not putting Bebop and Rocksteady in this movie. We will come up with 2 new mutant characters to work with the Shredder.
Yeah.
And you're not putting Baxter Stockman in this, because Baxter Stockman for them was a black man. And
yeah. Okay.
So, but the cartoon whitewashed him. And then they're like, okay, so Jordan Perry. Here's the thing about the 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because here's the thing about the 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. As many episodes where Shredder and Krang were the antagonists, there are episodes where they come up against a random mad scientist. Like, just a random fucking dude who's a mad scientist.
Yeah, by the way, I know science, and I'm doing something shady with it. Yep.
Yeah. So that's what Jordan Perry is meant to represent. Is one of the 1987 show's mad scientists who was, like, kidnapped by the Shredder and Krang, forced to use their scientific knowledge for evil, but, like, also it's funding, right? I get to finally make my living cubes of cheese. They'll shred themselves. They'll be thrilled to do it.
No need for you, Shredder.
Yeah, so, like, that's what he's supposed to represent, which is also crazy when you read that there's a script out there where he's an Utrom. And do you know who the Utrom are, Sejan? I feel like this is the worst episode of the Say Report, just in terms of us bumping and jumping around, and I apologize in advance.
No.
So you don't know who the Utrom are. All right, here's another brief history lesson.
Is it what Krang comes out of? Or, sorry, keep going.
No, here's a brief history of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from a guy who owns the entire first run. In the 4th episode, the Ninja Turtles see a building that has TCRI, So Tango, Charlie, Romeo, India, written in the sky. And they're like, oh, that canister that made us Ninja Turtles, that's the same letters on there. We should break into that building. These are the Ninja Turtles of the comics. They're like, let's just break into a building. They're not your friendly pizza-loving jokesters that the world knows. So they break into the building to try to get answers from where they came from. And once they're inside the building, they see scientists who are in robotic bodies being piloted by basketball-sized, like brain octopus aliens in the chest.
Okay.
So they do eventually inspire Krang in the 1987 series, which then in the IDW comic books, it goes on further to make it so that Krang is a general of the Utrom army who has turned against the peace-loving ways of the Utrom in order to use their knowledge to enslave the galaxy.
Yeah.
So that's where the Utrom come from. But the Utrom in the comics are this peace-loving group that got stranded on Earth, and the mutagen was accidental runoff from their experimentation to try to create a transmat device to get back to their home planet.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's it. So like, there's no maliciousness there or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So Professor Jordan Perry in the original script is meant to be one of those, but the people, the producers are like, well, no, kids are going to see the little brain alien inside of this guy and think, oh, that must be Krang.
Yeah.
So we're just going to cut it out altogether, which sucks because Secret of the Ooze, here's the real secret of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. Nothing is resolved.
Nothing happens in this movie. Absolutely nothing happens in this movie. They're like, this is the ooze that created you. We can't let it get into the wrong hands. And then somebody gets one tube of it, and they're like, we stopped it. And it's like, no, guys, we learned that there's an entire fucking pit full of this shit somewhere, guys. Like, you can't just rest on your laurels after defeating one tube of the thing.
Well,
it is
we
insane
do
to
see
me.
those tubes all disposed of, except for one.
Yeah.
They brushed that aside.
But that's what I mean. Is like, is it doesn't all go away, right? Anyway,
here's what I want. I want more movies. I want more movies where it starts with a stockpile of the MacGuffin, and then the MacGuffin is slowly turned into the only one of its kind in existence.
And so it gets to be this uber MacGuffin in the next one, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so the secret of the ooze is supposed to be, right, the titular secret of the ooze is that it is alien in origin, right? But because they get rid of Jordan Perry as an alien, it's just left as some mistake that was made by Earth scientists that has incredible mutagenic properties.
So here's the moment where we all owe a mea culpa to fucking, of all people, Michael fucking Bay.
No, I shut it down. I refuse this mea culpa of Michael Bay because I have read the script. I've seen the Blue Door script, and when he said these turtles are from an alien planet, literally Sonic the Hedgehog style, they are from another planet and they come to Earth, so they are aliens. He did not mean their origins are alien in nature. The script literally turned them into aliens.
Okay.
I mean, I can't.
So here is
sorry,
but no. Look, man, I'm the last person that wants to see like. I will say this every time we bring up Michael Bay. I have probably said it before, and I will say it again. The dude hired Megan Fox by making her wash his car. That was her audition for the Transformers movies. And that's nothing against Megan Fox, who has proven time and time again that she is a capable person in this world. It is all on Michael Bay that is the only reason that he did that. So that's the kind of human that I'm about to talk about for a second here, just so that we all remember. All right. So when they make this movie, you know that at some point some guy was like, well, we'll do the whole alien origin of the ooze, and then they are created by this alien artifact. And that just gets lost in translation, right? Like that script gets touched by 20 punch-up artists. Eventually it hits Michael Bay, who I'm sure goes over the script once himself with a pen in his hand and then hands it to somebody else to clean up his mess. But you know that, right? So somewhere in that terrible game of Hollywood telephone, they lose the thread on it comes from an alien ooze, and it just turns into they are aliens, right?
Yes. And oh my God, I can't wait till we get to that Christmas where I send you over a copy of the Blue Door script of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I don't know what we do. Do we do a table read? I mean, like, let's not plan the show during the show. And let's try to focus on Secret of the Ooze, though it's not very focused at all, this movie. I need to address the fact that they simultaneously act like they have been staying with April O'Neil long enough to have worn out their welcome, but also it's supposed to be the next day.
Well, so I thought it said 2 years later. Is it not 2 years later?
Where the fuck you get 2 years? First of all, it's only 1 year later, real world time.
Yeah.
So
okay,
that'd be some Marvel level bullshit of
I don't
2
know,
years
man,
later.
I don't know. So it's supposed to be, but I was saying, like, it feeds into so much from the first one that I was like, oh no, it's the next day. But didn't they say? I don't know. But anyway, there's this idea that like you're saying, it feels like so much time has passed, but also no time at all has passed. So like, where's Casey Jones? Like, I get the idea that maybe things didn't work out, but like the next day.
Oh, the next day, Casey Jones, we just watched you murder a guy.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah, there you go. Oh no, we kicked him out when he killed the Shredder. Well, we all should have.
Not only did we kick him out, we decided we will never exist as we will never acknowledge him again.
Yeah, we will never acknowledge it ever again.
Just like Seymour Skinner being Tamzarian.
In fact, we're so fed up with Casey Jones, we're kicking him out and we're replacing this April.
And that's why I think it's an alternate universe. I think that this film is if Casey Jones did not exist in the Ninja Turtles universe, right? This would be what happens after that fight in the first movie. So the whole first movie happens without any Casey Jones involvement.
Oh man, no, this is perfect because at the end of the movie they throw him into the trash truck.
Yep.
And
they think nobody says
ever,
oops.
Nobody crushes it.
Yeah,
nobody crushes him. So that means he lives. Oh man.
So that is how the Shredder survives, because Casey Jones is not there to oops him into, like a cube, I guess.
Man, somebody came along and just outed that variant. That's what they did there, man. Oh shit.
Yeah. Yep. It's that, and also the fact that because him and April, it feels like they're gonna start dating at the end of that first movie. So it has to be that he just does not exist. Other examples of the fact that this is a completely different universe is April still works for Channel 3 News, but where is Charles? Where is Dan?
Yeah, all of her old coworkers and bosses for sure.
Yeah, they've been replaced by the new director, Michael Pressman.
Where's all of the kids? The kid and all
where's Michael Rock? Yeah, where's Sam Rockwell?
The whole Foot Clan reassembling, just being a bunch of just adults now. Like they gave up on the kid plan. I guess makes some sense. They didn't
give up on the kid plan, which is the most disappointing part of this movie. Honestly, is they're looking for anybody who's got martial arts skills, especially kids. Like, why? Why did you keep that line?
Yeah, after everything. Oh my god. It literally means the first movie, they didn't achieve what they set out to do.
It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, the Foot Clan reconvening at the junkyard, and that was the plan if it went bad, that's the next day. They attacked the Turtles, and if it went bad, our plan was to reconvene at the junkyard.
And can we talk about how fucking convenient it is that they decide to reconvene in a building that is not 15 feet away from their resurrected leader who crawls out of the
that's just compression
Movie
of
magic.
story right there.
Yeah. It's just he's like literally he gets up out of the trash and is like, oh man, that was a kick in the butt. Looks over, his entire gang is already reassembled right next to him. Like he basically had like a new guy in Pac-Man. Like he was like, all right, back to work.
At this point, I could make a very strong argument for Shredder put that truck there. That garbage truck was put there as his escape plan.
This was my plan H. Like,
It was a Xanatos' gambit. And
oh
he's
my
like,
God.
if the rat shows up and throws me into the trash truck, I will already be at the junkyard.
Meet me there.
And then he's like, Tatsu, come here. Tatsu. You must act like I am dead so I can re-establish my dominance over the people.
They'll be a little upset because I'll be gone. So challenge the men. Bring them back.
You must keep the fire burning for the 5 to 10 minutes where they think I'm dead.
It'll be okay, though. I'll be up in the morning.
I'll be fine.
There in time for brunch. I'll never miss your mimosas.
I don't know what we're doing. I love this show, though. Yeah, man, it's time for that. It's time to see a Ninja Turtles property that is the story of the Foot Clan from the Foot Clan.
Oh man. Well, and they try and do this thing every time where it's always about like this kid who's at risk that might join them, and it doesn't work this time around because like there's no way that Kino, am I saying his name right?
Is Kino.
His name is Kino. I just didn't want to call him that, but that is his name.
His name is not only Kino, it is Kino, Keno, where like Kino is right there, and also an acceptable spelling of Kino. I don't.
Nope. They just want to go on the record and just make it Kino. But but it doesn't work with Kino because there's never a moment where you think Kino's ever going to turn bad. Even when he walks away from Splinter at that point, like you don't think he's going to go bad. He's just angry.
He's not angry. He's like, I could be doing something and instead they have me babysitting you. Also, you could be doing something. Remember when you shot the magic arrow that freed them from the trap they just walked into?
It just wandered right into, yeah. And what was the plan here? Was to just drop them on a bunch of just spikes from 2 feet?
Death spikes, right?
But yeah, but they all have shell. We have established that their shells are like they can't get through them with a katana.
Siegen.
So like
Siegen. They are in a net. We pick the net up. We drop it hard. If that doesn't kill them, we pick the net up again.
Yeah, but then it's stuck because one of them got stuck on the spike. So then they gotta like shake the truck off, and it's real gross for everyone.
Yeah, it's just like, but that's you just keep doing it till they're dead. That's what you do. Also, like, that's Plan A, but Plan B is the mutants that you had created to fight them.
Right. No, the Shredder always has at least 6 plans in the chamber.
We've established. Jesus. Yeah, no, the garbage truck was the escape plan. That's the only thing for him, like, well, that sucked.
Oh my God.
Also,
and then
can we talk
nothing
about
happens for an hour, and then there's the last 20 minutes of this movie where there's medical donuts and iced tea.
To Vanilla Ice.
Iced tea, Vanilla Ice. It could have been anybody at the end of this movie, and it all would have been the same fever dream.
There's mutagen ice cubes and Vanilla Ice.
Why didn't they just work them into a jelly? Why did they have to be ice cube?
I don't. Well, we could freeze them and do it, but you're serving donuts. You could just inject them. It's also why do they let them do that whole pre-fight donut? Like, yeah,
the bit is
we're just gonna let this happen. We're the Foot
It's
Clan.
another super cartoony moment, right? Like this movie is full of them. These convenient things that if it happened in the cartoon show, I wouldn't have batted an eye. But I will be honest. I have a line in the sand somewhere between the cartoon show and this real live action movie where I do question all of this fucking nonsense because it's just like why would that be where he ends up? And why would his crew not have like all of the kids in it still from just 24 hours ago? Because there's no way all of them left, right? And then there's just so much going on in like the first 20 minutes of this movie that are just so insane. Are the guys that Kino fights in the opening moments of this movie? in any way related to the Foot Clan,
Nope.
or is that just another roving gang of like 30 dudes robbing a
Yeah,
store? Which, hey, the world we
that's
live in today, that happens apparently. I want to point out that it's not too far from a thing that literally happened last week. But like, what?
that's 30 random dudes in sweaters and pantyhose masks robbing a mall. They're robbing a mall.
Yeah,
Why are they
yeah.
robbing a mall?
And why are there so many electronic stores in that mall? Surely one or two of them are going to cannibalize the rest, right?
My favorite part of that whole sequence is there is a box for the special television microwave computer. And I'm like, man, it doesn't do any of those things well, does it?
Oh, man.
It's just, yeah, that whole thing, like just random group of dudes robbing a mall. The guy who, when Kino shows up, takes his mask off. Like, why would you do that? First of all, they're pantyhose, so they're not really obscuring who you are, but there's no reason to take it off.
But also like the idea that the way that Kino spots that somebody is doing is up to no good, and like part of it seems to be Spidey sense goes off in him. I'm not gonna lie, but he looks over and there are, no joke, like 4 passenger vans with all of their doors wide open, with all of the electronics in the world shoved into them and just sitting there with nobody outside. To the point where Kino is able to not just run past those trucks, but then run into the mall and get deep inside before he runs into these guys. Why was there not another group of people robbing these robbers?
Well, because so here's
apparently
the problem.
They were all there robbing the mall. They were all just in it.
All right, so I think what you've just done is proven that this roving gang of street thugs were originally Foot Clan.
Right? It has
because
to be, like,
if
all
we
of the crime of this size, there's no way a crime this size goes unnoticed by the Foot Clan the day after they running what we are to understand in the first movie, all the crime in the city.
if we are to believe the chain of events, the supply chain of robbing people that we saw in the first movie, these guys were the guys who, like, we take it from A and we put it to B. So they're just waiting for B to come take the stuff. And it's all part of the same global chain. Oh my God. There are deeper gang implications in this. Yeah. Like,
well, I was thinking that Shredder died the night before, right? Like, yeah. Or at least everybody believes he did. So is this a group, like an offset group of the Foot that thinks that Shredder's dead? So they've just gone off on their own, like shit scramble, right? And this is like a smaller gang that has formed as a runoff from everybody that left when they found out that the boss died. And this is like their big get is like, fill up all the vans with everything you can get. We're leaving fucking town, right?
No, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. So here it is. So I'm going to detail how I believe the Foot Clan ran things. And this is going to blow your mind. I'm being completely sincere right here. The Foot Clan hires gangs of thugs such as the mall robbers, right? They set that up, they pay them in advance, and they say, you need to rob the mall and just leave all the stuff in the vans. It will be taken care of, right? Just put it in the vans. It'll be taken care of. So the mall robbers accept the job, accept payment for the job, and then the day of the robbery comes and they do their part of the job.
Yeah.
But because the night before the Shredder was killed, all of the ninjas, right, all of the guys clad in the dojis, have to resort to Plan H and go reconvene at the junkyard. So right. These guys are just doing a job that they were paid to do, not knowing that the second part of that job is not showing up.
It's not going to show, but it doesn't matter. They got their money. Who cares?
Right, they already got paid. Exactly. Mm-hmm. But that, and it's such a beautiful thing. If that's actually how the Foot Clan did it, it's such a beautiful thing because those guys steal the stuff and put it into the vans, but then from the vans, it's taken by various members of the Foot Clan and maybe even a secondary group of criminals in between. So then if the cops show up, those guys don't have any product. There's no evidence to implicate them other than the fact that they're inside of the mall.
Okay. But why does Kino show up and the first thing he says is, you're under arrest?
Because Kino does not understand the justice system.
Why is that his like line. He cannot possibly mean it, but it's not a joke either because there's nothing funny about it.
Kino is flying high on his little burn to the girls who brushed him off.
Oh, shitty. Also, a shitty line, like
So,
no good.
yeah, why you gotta shame him like that?
What a kick the cat moment. Like, no way I'm gonna like you now for the rest of this movie.
Yeah, totally a kick the cat moment. But he's feeling so high off of that he's like, I can perform a citizen's arrest. I'm Kino.
You're under arrest. You in what army? Like, what kid? Like, I get it. You know martial arts. That doesn't make you a cop.
You know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about, what if I order pizza and the place across the street from where I live is being stolen and the delivery driver goes and gets involved in that? What happens to my pizza?
Yeah, excuse me. Do I get that free?
Hi, Famous Roy's Pizza?
I mean, the opening of Spider-Man 2 would imply that you do get it for free.
Yes, that's a good point. We haven't talked about all the sequelitis in this film. This is so Ghostbusters 2 in some of the grossest ways.
Somebody can say it's a lot of Ghostbusters Afterlife in a lot of the grossest ways.
Well, I haven't seen Ghostbusters Afterlife, so I still can't talk truly intelligently on that.
Yeah, we won't go there. But no, you're not wrong. I mean, like, it's even got some of the, like, Indiana Jones, more Last Crusade than Temple of Doom. But there's some of that sort of stuff in it. Like, the need to lean in to, like, the one-liners and the bits, whereas in the first movie it really established for me as I was watching it, like, oh, these are just punk kids that just, like, don't realize that they're getting in over their heads. And that's a really cool element to that movie that I'd never really thought of before. Here I am watching this movie a year later, and I'm just thinking, this is all everybody wanting to be Deadpool. Like, it's the same problem we have today. Like, Robert Downey Jr. gets quippy once in an Iron Man suit, and suddenly every superhero has to be quippy. Like it actually was happening 10 years previously. 20 years previously.
Yeah, because this is the 30th anniversary of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze. Just to put that hat on it. They're so okay. Sorry. So the first movie, right? I love the first movie. I cannot hide the fact that I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990. It does such a good job to try to give every turtle a unique voice, and even then it falls a little flat because Donnie and Michelangelo sort of become this Greek chorus and are kind of interchangeable in a lot of ways, but Raphael and Leonardo at least feel like distinct characters.
I would argue that there's a lot of versions of the Turtles where that exact dynamic happens. It's really hard to write for Donnie and Michael in the background, like it really is.
Yeah.
I don't envy anybody out there that has to make those characters interesting in a 2-hour film when you have the likes of like Raph and then followed pretty closely by Leo, who is consistently looking up to Raphael and still like never wants to become him.
Yeah, it's man, if I didn't have this responsibility, I could be an asshole like Raphael.
Yeah, exactly. You joke, but that's
I'm not. I'm
right. Like that's definite subtext in a lot of moments for him,
especially in this movie. There are so many moments. I mean, that's why they're both punished in the beginning with flips because they're both. It's like Leonardo has sort of given into the Raphael within him, and that's what Splinter's like. No, we're stopping this. Flips. Do some friggin' flips.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes that conversation of like, Dad, why do you let him get away with this and not me? And it's and Splinter basically being like, because you're supposed to be better than him. Like, is essentially always his reasoning, which is not fair. It's an interesting dynamic that this movie points to and then never explores.
Never explores at all. And this movie is also frustrating because of the moment like. Should we really be moving right now, or should we kind of be tracking the Foot, who we just found out are still out there and a threat? And Leonardo being like, we need to find a new house. And it's like, there's 4 of us. 2 of us could be on house duty, and 2 of us could be looking for the Foot Clan.
Also, I want to watch the fucking movie where like Mikey is responsible for taking Splinter from sewer to sewer to like house shop. Like I would watch that episode.
It'd be a pretty good episode. I mean, it's one of those situations though where in the comics they do that stuff, right? Even in the show, they would a lot of times pair them off, right? It's
Yeah.
where the Donnie Raphael, like one of the reasons why Donatello is such a popular turtle is because of him being paired with Raphael so frequently in the animated series.
Yeah,
They
and him being the brains to the brawn. I mean that
right.
that formula is just tried and true in kids television.
Exactly. And so but there you go. So why wouldn't you do that type of thing, right? Or even
Right.
if you like cuz the comics really lean into Michelangelo and Raphael are best friends and they would do stuff together. And honestly, if Raphael's gonna you know that Raphael is going to do whatever he wants to fucking do, right?
Right.
Like at
Right.
this, you've known him for 15 years, Leonardo. Put him on Track the Foot Clan and give him Michelangelo, who you all kind of look at as like this weight that you have to bear as the Ninja Turtles, right?
Yeah.
Like Raphael would not be an issue if you kept him busy. Like, I don't want to go with the old he's just bored argument for the kid who acts up in school, but honestly, every time Raphael's a fucking dick, he's just bored.
Yeah.
And it's like, we could be doing something. Instead, you got me sitting here doing nothing.
Yeah, well, and part of that is because Mikey and Donnie are just never they're never going to be on the same level as Raph or Leonardo in terms of the talent and like the inherent talent, right? Like no matter how much how much they train, they're never going to be that, and they're not trying to be. And I think that's the thing that really kind of gets people upset about them is they see them not trying sometimes, and they're just like, you're not even trying, and they're just like, well, why would we? Like we're never going to be these two. Like the family dynamics that are on display in the canon of the Turtles are some of my favorite. Like it just the ways in which it explores brotherhood, the way that it explores like responsibility within a family and patriarchy and all of that stuff, and not just like patriarchy in terms of like the man like being in charge, but the idea of the man who is in charge, right? Like when Splinter is gone, who is going to be there for this family is a huge part of this like universe and things like that. It's just like all of that stuff is so interesting, and in the first movie they do touch on that. Raph's whole story about him running away and meeting Casey Jones and then finding an actual brother that he can relate to in Casey Jones is a huge part of that movie. And then you come to this one where they're just a bunch of dudes just hanging out all the time and everything's fine. No, yeah. It's just like, what is going on? Like compared to the first movie where he makes a Humphrey Bogart move and you buy it. That would never work in this movie.
Yeah, that's I don't know. It's so I'd like to go back to the brains and bronze of it because it's something else that is wonderful that you touch on in terms of Michelangelo and Donatello, knowing that they'll never be the physical equals of their brothers Leonardo and Raphael, and that's Michelangelo in the comics is not necessarily book smart, but he's creative. Like he's a novelist. Like he's a published novelist by the time you get to the 4th volume of Mirage Comics. And I love that. I love that for the character of Michelangelo. Like I can fight if I have to, but I'm also intelligent. I'm just not the kind of intelligent that Donatello is.
Yeah. Well, in TMNT, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mikey's the one that's in charge of the truck, right? He's kind of the one like Donnie builds a lot of the stuff, but Mikey's the one that's like, we need this, like this is my baby, like I designed. He's the idea man for Donnie to then be the guy that actually puts stuff together.
Yeah, he's the idea man and Donnie is the engineer who makes it happen. That's actually a really good way of looking at it. Also TMNT, right? Because let's just talk about all of the Ninja Turtles movies. Mikey is the only one who kind of is going out and working. Like Donatello has the IT job, but Michelangelo is getting them fast cash by going and performing at birthday parties as Cowabunga Carl.
Well, And I will say that the reason that we talk about all the other movies is that this is the one that really kind of births the idea of this being a franchise, which is, you can say that about all sequels, but as we have pointed out, this one's kind of like the one to point to. Like, this is the one that embraces the idea that this doesn't have to be a one-off success. We can make this last, right? And so all other movies end up looking back at this one in so many different ways and get compared more to this one than the first one, because the first one is the art piece. The first one is the one that establishes that this is a viable piece of work to be working on. And then the second one establishes, like, and we could ride that pony until it's dead. Like, right? Like, and that is something that is so unique to the Turtles for me, is the ways in which, in all aspects, in all ways, they ride that line of being this, like, not commercial, like, blockbuster, but success, right? But at the same time being so weird and indie that they can pretty much do anything, and nobody is like, you can't do that. That's the Ninja Turtle. Kids look up to that. Like, they don't, that argument never really happens, right? Like, it's a weird existence, because nowadays, like, everything either has to be this, like, art piece that we hold up and defend it no matter what choice it makes, or this thing that is so stupid that it's not worth fighting or defending, right? Like, and so, like, if it's not one of those two extremes, then what is it? Is feels very much like the attitude of the way that we look at this stuff. But, like, this movie is the one that allows it to become that, I think.
Well, it's also unique if you think about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? That first volume from Mirage, the first 7 issues, no, it's actually the first 6 issues and the micro issue, Me, Myself, and I, where Raph meets Casey Jones. Those are all written and drawn by Eastman and Laird. They're the two people who create those. And then when things are getting like, oh, this is a lot of work, what we're doing and what we're creating, there are times where they will outsource the entire operation to other artists to write a story and to draw these characters and give them full carte blanche. Like, there's no canon, guys. Feel free to do whatever you want with these characters. And that is so unique to something like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I can't think of anything that has gone that far out of the way to be like, hey, you're doing this issue, right? And it's your story, it's your art. Please have fun with it.
It's definitely not a story you hear often in comics, for sure. I mean, the idea that people are given full creative control and then credit is a big deal, because, I mean, especially at the time, we are learning more and more that people are not. We sit here in the shadow of, like, Hawkeye the TV show being squarely at the center of one of those exact conversations right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, that is extremely unique, and it sounds like they were not in the norm at all for that time period.
Yeah,
for this.
I mean, it goes, like, if you want to look at, like, the canon issues, because that's what they ended up doing years on, they established that these are the ones that are canon that definitely happened. It's like the first 12 issues minus, I think it's like issue 9, are all considered canon, and then everything else is the guest era, and then it doesn't start being, like, canon again until issue 47 of the books. And it's just because they're like, well, we want to keep giving people Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff. We want to be able to produce it. And we're saying that as Mirage Studios, we will take care of all the production effort. You guys just need to get us the pages, and we will get it printed and put into stores, and we'll all make money off of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that is, like, super uber unique for that
and I mean,
time period.
It gets a little strange later on in the 90s when then they're like, we would like to own all of the rights to the work that you've created because we published it. And then some of the people allow them to buy the rights, and then others, specifically like Rick Veitch, who is best known probably for, I think it's Brat Pack is the name of the story that he did. That's about superhero sidekicks. That's, like, held up alongside Watchmen in terms of, like, changing comic books and comic book storytelling. Yeah. Being like, no, this is my story. I own this story. I'm not just going to give you the rights to this story, which then becomes a whole big battle because other people side with him, and then
Well,
there are
right. Other
some that.
people are suddenly like, wait, we could do that? We could say that? Like, people that were not in his position were just like, wait a minute. Well, I didn't know, I didn't realize that was an option.
So yeah, so someday we can look real deep into the comics for that type of stuff. But the reason why I point to the fact that this is something that Eastman and Laird were doing with their own property at the time, looking at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and the first movie being sort of that canon adaptation through like the first 11 issues of the series, with some outliers in there that don't count. And then the second movie just kind of being like, well, this is guest work, right? Like, it's still the turtle characters. They kind of resemble what you know, but they drew April a little bit differently. She doesn't look like Judith Hogue anymore. Now she looks more like Paige Turco. And, you know, a lot of the character stuff that you see in our stuff from the Eastman and Laird stuff, that's not necessarily going to be there because that's not important to the story that they want to tell in this movie. So it weirdly works. And it's an important thing to bring up and an important distinction that I want to establish when we're talking about Secret of the Ooze, because once we get to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, it'll become very important to the story and of that film and sort of what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Secret of the Ooze. So there's this idea that the ooze that created them is now being used to create other mutants. There's some weird aspect that Shredder is then able to take it at the end of this movie and become Super Shredder, which is
why would his armor mutate? Why would his armor mutate?
Yeah. And then the whole, like, we're turtles, we can survive. That'd be great if I thought for one second they at any point like rejected that part of them. So you know what I mean? Wasn't much of a climax for them to remember that they were turtles and jump into the water.
Oh, we can swim and we got shells. Why that? Okay. So this
It'd be like Iron Man in like the climax of his movie, remembering he can pee in his suit to win. Like I have the ability to urinate.
Oh, I can go to the bathroom right now.
I mean, we always kind of had that ability, but I guess we're going to address that now. All right.
Oh, are you insinuating that the Iron Man suit is like the hydration suits from Dune?
No, distinctly it is not, which is why it fucks everything up, and that's why he's able to then fall out of the suit. He saves the day just as Tony Stark. Look, I'm writing my own zine.
I can't wait to see it at the coffee house. We're going there for slam poetry, right? After we watch the all-female production of Superman. I think it's going to work. I'm friends with the woman who's playing Rex Luthor. They had to change the names for legal reasons. I'm just a puddle cruiser. Anywho, I don't know what I know exactly what happened. You said zine and it triggered my college memories. Secret of the Ooze is I don't know. Here's what I'm going to say. That comic book adaptation I sent you, Shredder, when he is shot away by the loud guitar straight out of the opening of Back to the Future,
right.
When he lands on the vial and it covers his body. So, like, that would make sense why it would mutate his armor and everything. It's at least an explanation for it. But the explanation in movie is that he drank the vial of ooze. And, it just mutates your clothes, too. Don't think about it. It's Kevin Nash, not to be confused with Kevin Clash.
Oh, Boise. This movie. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it's weird because, like I said, like, I also walk away just enjoying the hell out of a lot of the stuff, like the puppetry and things like that. So remind me again of not Bebop and Rocksteady. What are they again?
Toka and Razar, an alligator, snapping turtle, and a wolf.
Yeah, and Razar is the turtle, right?
No, Razar is the wolf.
Okay, see, it shows how much I could tell what the fuck was going on in any scene with the two of them. Yeah, like, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I'm in awe of the amount of, like, work in the facial features. There's definitely a little bit of, like, Skeksis going on in Tortoise Boy there. And, like, there's all of this stuff being brought forward that I'm just, like, in love with. And I'm thinking, this is all looking great. And the turtles, like, the ways that they've kind of thinned them out a little bit and they can move a little bit more in this one. The heads don't look so egregious, like that sort of stuff. The movement of the mouths and stuff.
Well,
love with all of it.
The thing about it, first of all, dedicated to Jim Henson, right? This is a film that is dedicated to the memory of Jim Henson. He passed away right as the first one was being, I believe, released.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had seen it and he didn't like how violent it was,
Yeah.
which is why Brian Henson was apprehensive to get involved with the sequel, because the first movie was so violent, we didn't think you were going to do that with our Muppets. And it's like, did you not see the Star Wars movie? They blow up an in-progress space station, right? That's not...
Killing hundreds, if not thousands, of contractors.
Yeah, it's not staffed by
Taking the
military.
risks.
Yeah. We're not turning this into Clerks, but it's a good point. But to be like, oh, it's too violent. The Turtles are too violent.
Yeah,
In a movie that, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990 is not very violent.
At this point, we have watched a man get his hand cut off and replaced with a robot hand. Like,
Yeah, compared to Star Wars, it's not that violent. It's Sally something. Sally Menken is the name of the cinematographer and editor that Quentin Tarantino took from the first movie to go make all of his movies. I knew it would come to me if I started talking about Star Wars.
yeah, there it is. Oh, man.
But yeah, so that's it. But, like, you want to talk about the puppetry. One of the main things that they did was all of the animatronics were housed in the shell in the first movie. But because of what they learned from that first movie, they were able to make them so small that they fit just in the head. Right. So everything on the face is now controlled by servos and motors that are in the face, instead of having to travel such a distance through the shell, making those suits weigh like 30 pounds.
Yeah. The backflip stuff and things like that you see in this movie would have had required basically a different suit in the first one.
Yeah,
they would not have been able to do that one with all of the like electronics to work the face, which they did.
The guy in the suit for Leonardo, when he had to do that flip, they're like, we're going to find a stunt man to do that. And he's like, no, I can do it. I don't want anyone else to do it because I'm going to be the best person to do that flip. And he does. And it looks really good when Leonardo does it. But if it were the original suits, it would have been physically impossible because of the weight and distribution of said weight.
Yeah.
He would have landed on his back and been unable to stand up, much like a regular turtle.
So it leads to a lot of stuff in this movie just looking better in terms of like the fight scenes and the stunts and the silly action moves over the counter and stuff like that. Like there's moments where the movement in this movie feel better. Like we watched the first movie and I spent the entire time aching for the people in those suits. That's all I could do. In this movie, it looked more like guys wearing pajamas. Not that it looked like that in terms of quality, but like in terms of my concern for them running around. Like I did not worry about them so much in this movie.
The thing is, you talk about the fight scenes though, they still couldn't see out of those suits at all. And it's actually really interesting if you study the choreography. There are some documentaries out there that the foot soldiers are basically reacting to what they see the turtles do. They're putting themselves in a place where they could look like they were kicked by a random foot that the guy in the turtle suit put up.
Yeah, but then you think about that and the moments when they are doing things like that involve like close-ups on the face, and like there's a moment where Mikey like wipes his brow, really, like, and that sort of stuff, that these puppeteers inside these suits knew those costumes so well that even though they couldn't see fuck all of what was going on out there, the way that they make some of those scenes look, like, it just, that's the kind of stuff that I'm thinking and focusing on as I'm watching this movie. Because honestly, if I wasn't, I don't know if I'd be able to sit through it like I have the first one 1,000 times since we watched it last year.
Yeah.
Like this one does not have the rewatchability of the first one unless this is why you're doing it, right? Is to look at this sort of stuff, because otherwise you realize what you're watching at some point and you just turn it off.
Yeah, and that's sad. I will admit that's kind of sad that that's how it is, but oh boy, is that exactly how it is. This is so sanitized compared to the first one. It's so safe compared to the first one. And the fact that it still does enough money to get them to immediately greenlight the third movie is impressive. But I think
But
what's even yeah,
still managed to inspire a fan base.
yeah.
Like we can give it all the shit in the world we want. There are people out there that love this movie. Like they when when you talk about this series, this is often the one that people think of.
I mean, yeah, I told the story of when I was asked to go see the first movie, and then everybody, like, their plan was to shit on it. And when I sat there watching it like it was high art and, like, crying at the moments, they're like, do you really like this? And I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I? This is amazing, this film. And then this movie I don't feel that same emotion for. But there are people who were raised on the 1987 cartoon who, after seeing the first movie, which is nothing like that, come to this one and it feels like that Christmas sweater. And it feels like something they're familiar with, but we get to see it in the movie theater.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
it does exactly what this movie set out to do. Again, another tragic trope of the sequel is that it doesn't have to be the blockbuster film that the first movie was that made all the money. It just has to make enough to justify its own existence. You know, like can we turn this into a franchise? That'd be great, but especially at this time, that's not the thought. That's right. So this movie also comes in and does just what it needs to do to just keep the ball rolling. Because also the other thing about often number two movies, especially, is you don't really have to worry. Number three is probably already in the works. Right? Like if two kind of falls on its face, it's okay. You get one mulligan nowadays, and when it comes to the whole like franchise try, because everybody wants to have the next Avengers, they're willing to go three movies to see what happens.
Heck, even the Avengers are willing to go 3 movies and see what happens.
Yeah,
Look
yeah.
at Thor. Look at Iron Man, where their sequels were historically not as good as the first one,
Yeah.
but then they got a third movie. And I mean, I would say that one did better than the other with its third film, Redemption. And I'm talking completely objectively how the world received them. Most people don't like Iron Man 3, but people do not shut up about Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean like exactly that, right? So this idea that like this movie is more than serviceable from like a business standpoint. So like you said, it immediately greenlights a third. We get to see more toys made. There is a love that is garnered for this series, all because of this, in my opinion, mediocre movie.
Good. I'm glad that I'm not the only one who thinks this one is kind of mediocre.
Like
And
I love so much about it. I cannot get past like I said, the stuff that is in this movie in terms of like the costuming. Oh my god, the fucking soundtrack. Joe De Perez, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, I went to go look it up because I was like, this music is so good. NY Pizza, which is the song that opens up this movie where everybody's eating pizza. We have not talked enough about that fucking moment. But NY Pizza is the name of the song that's playing, and it is literally now on like 3 of my playlists on Spotify. And if you go to Spotify right now, 2020 and then 2021, he did the music for both the original movie and this one, and they put re-releases out of both of them with some gorgeous artwork and some phenomenal remastering of all the work. And they are some of the best soundtracks ever. Like it's this good like electronica, like almost like 8-bit or 16-bit style music. It's beautiful. It's so good.
my soundtrack for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will forever be Turtles 3. So I'm excited to talk about that in 2 years. But I agree. The soundtrack, I think this is such a sequel soundtrack, though, which is, I don't mean that to be as negative as it sounds, but the original soundtrack, the soundtrack for the first movie, is also incredible, right? Partners in Crime, TURTLE Power, is a jam. 9.95 is excellent. Like, it's this really good thing, but then, because it's the sequel, we're going to lean into everything that works. But they knew that the soundtrack did banging. Like, they knew that the soundtrack was successful for that first movie, because you talk about comic adaptations sorry, being one way that you got to have the movie at home. The other way, and we've explored this before, is in terms of the soundtrack. The
Yeah.
soundtrack is what you get to have and how you get to relive the movie, because, you know, a single is probably $5 as opposed to that very expensive VHS of the
Oh,
movie.
and sometimes what you got was you got those like storybook ones that gave you like a little bit of the story of what was happening, and then it goes into John Williams music, and then it goes back to a little bit of the Star Wars story and the back of the John. It's like, yeah, no, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So they knew that that first soundtrack did good. So then a lot of the budget for this film goes into the soundtrack, getting Vanilla Ice there to do the ninja rap. And he's at the height of his friggin' career, getting Vanilla Ice to come in and do this movie. That's a huge get for them.
Right.
And then everything else that happens in terms of the songs, it's good. They did a really good job with the soundtrack, but it feels, I don't want to say it's like too try hard.
Well,
but
you got to separate here. What I'm talking about is the soundtrack.
You're talking
from,
about the score. I understand. The score is incredible.
Yeah.
He earns everything for that. But I'm talking that score is a separate album, right? And that's one of the reasons why the score, that the CD that released for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 is so important and impressive to me. A lot of that score work that you don't get on the first two soundtracks, they just dumped to fill space on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 soundtrack.
Yeah.
So that was the first time that you could get a lot of this music.
Yeah.
But again, we'll explore that in a couple of years. We're supposed to be talking about Secret of the Ooze, and I wanna shout out a couple of things. Which door do you want to go down first, Siegen? 1 or 2?
Is one of them about the pizza? Because man, we have not talked about the pizza enough.
Neither one of them is about the pizza.
Okay, well,
We will end on the
number
pizza.
one.
Door number 1 is Ernie Reyes Jr. is a goddamn certified Hollywood success story.
All right, hit me with this.
Well, because he is the guy doing a lot of the fight choreography and training in the first movie for Donatello, right? Mm-hmm. He is the guy. He's a stunt guy for that. Sometimes he's in the suit doing it. And they like him so much as a dude on set that they're like, we're making a character for you in the next movie. So we can keep hanging out with you. Plus, the world will get to know your name. And then he goes on to do Surf Ninjas with Rob Schneider and Leslie Nielsen, which, spoilers, we're going to do Surf Ninjas eventually.
Yeah, dude, can we do all of like the kids ninja movie, like 3 ninjas, Surf Ninjas?
I would love to do 3 ninjas. You know that I'm a big fan of 3 ninjas. 4 strands of rope, Siegen. 4 strands of rope. But yeah, it's just one of those situations where like Ernie Reyes Jr., all he was a stuntman, and then he gets elevated to sort of the main human character in the second movie, and then he launches a career off of that. Like, that's impressive. That's an impressive thing that I would like to celebrate about Secret of the Ooze.
Oh my God, is he the guy in the Rundown? He is. He's the guy in the bar in the Rundown with the rope, I think.
I'm pretty sure he is, yeah.
Oh, shit. Yes. No, we, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's some good stuff. So Ernie Reyes Jr., I wanna give him that. Even though Kino is such a weird character, because clearly they had deeper like designs for that character, and then it doesn't happen. I mean,
the way that he learns from Splinter, the way that he also then goes off with Raph in that moment, like there's definitely so much that again, it's potential. There's so much potential everywhere in this movie for stuff to talk about things that are so much better and deeper than this movie ever cares to talk about. It
starts up so many stories, and then they just never get to go anywhere further. It's jeez, and that leads to door number 2, because the secret of all of my doors is that they eventually lead into each other. And that's David Warner, who plays Professor Jordan Perry. Mm-hmm. Now, for me, he is always the villain of Time Bandits, with his whole speech about nipples for men.
He plays the lead of the Assassin's Guild in I will say not all of, but most of the made for TV Terry Pratchett movies that the BBC does all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is for some reason the role that I always think of for him, even though it's much later in his life. It's a role that allows him to still be wry and very like creepy on screen, but also sit down the entire time. I just think he's getting to that point in his life. But he's amazing as the head of the Assassin's Guild in the Discworld series.
And he is amazing in this film.
Yeah.
And it is so crazy that very clearly he was directed for most of this movie to be a little alien, right? like you need to act just a little bit like you're not human.
Yeah.
And because he nails it. The character feels so otherworldly. Like when he eats the pizza, he's like, pepperoni heaven. Like, that man is an alien that has never eaten pizza before. That is what that is.
Kind of reminds me of the gross dude there from Howard the Duck. What's his nuts?
Tim Robbins?
No, Principal Rooney.
Oh.
Where he is the guy that gets taken over by the entity, right? And that it reminds me of that role. Like I could see something like that happening to David Warner's character, and I kind of wish it was just David Warner and Howard the Duck nowadays, you know?
Yeah.
For various reasons, not least of which he's amazing.
Yeah. It's just so disappointing because he gives this performance that is excellent. Like he lights up any scene that he's in. He is not the best actor in this movie. We will get to what I think is the best scene of this movie, and we can fight over whether or not you agree with me.
I probably won't disagree with you because I don't think there's a good scene in this movie.
Okay, good. Well, I'm excited to have the discussion. But every scene and everything that he's doing, and like Donatello being like, I feel like there's something more you're not telling me. He plays those moments so cagey, like he has a secret guarded and kept close to the vest, and that we never get a payoff for that is so disappointing.
Yeah.
Because that's his entire character is built around, I have a secret. And that secret never gets to happen.
It's a shame. Man, imagine introducing that at the end of this movie, and then like your third movie could have been a whole thing where like Krang like shows up, because you could have tied in literally the comics and the cartoons together in that. Oh man.
Well, the original ending for the script, right? This is like the first one where they're like, we'll just adapt the 4th issue, and we'll go through that. Is the Turtles help the Utroms complete their machine, and then they're going to leave, but when they activate the transmat device, the Triceratons show up. And that was going to be the cliffhanger for the 3rd movie, which would have been very cool, right? Giant Triceratops aliens walking around. And I wish that the Henshin Creature Shop got the chance to design those characters.
Right.
But then also, if you do want to tie it into Krang, you have one of the Utrom have betrayed them and sold them out to the Triceratons.
Yep.
Like there's so much that could have happened with all of these ideas that were like, no, we need to sanitize it. We need to make it more like the show, which is exactly what happens to Ghostbusters. And that's why you have such weird stuff happening in Ghostbusters 2 that feels incongruous to the first movie. It's disappointing. And it's really disappointing that, like, it clearly, like, that scene exists where it's revealed that Jordan Perry is an alien. Because the direction, the whole movie, is you have a secret and you're a little bit alien to this world.
Yeah, you're a little bit different, for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, he's just a pleasure just watching this movie, and that's the thing is like, there's just so much of that to go around throughout this movie. Is like there's all these good elements that are worth talking about, and like I said, if that's what you're watching for, then this movie will keep you going to the end for sure. It's just the problem is you sit back and just try and turn your brain off and just watch this thing. You almost can't do that, which is a weird thing to say about such a dumb movie.
Yeah. It's so dumb that it inspires you to question why.
You'd rather talk about how dumb it is than watch it. I guess that's the definition of so bad is good, right? Is these movies that like we are able to just tolerate because of they at least inspire conversation, right? And like maybe that's what makes a movie so bad that it can't even be good, right? Is that it doesn't even inspire conversation in you.
Yeah, I mean that's like we always talk about finding that good element of something bad. And this is one of those movies where, like, objectively, this is probably my least favorite Ninja Turtles movie, which is really saying something because we're going to watch the third movie.
Second to last for me. If I'm thinking of every Ninja Turtles movie that I have ever laid eyes on,
we're including the Michael Bay ones on that as
including
well.
the Michael Bay ones,
Yeah,
the animated one, include yeah. If I were including Batman meets the Ninja Turtles, like including all of that shit, it is second to the bottom for me.
Oh, well, I'm excited for when we reveal what is the bottom. Don't do it now. Let's
I don't
keep
think
it
it's going to be
secret.
that exciting, but sure, yeah.
Well, let's keep it secret. We probably won't even remember that we had this conversation. Yeah. Someone remind us before next year. So, like, November 2023, remind us that CJ needs to tell us his bottom of the barrel Ninja Turtles movie. And we'll try to work it back into this at the Say Report on Twitter. But yeah, like, this is a movie that, like, even though I feel that way about it, if I would have no problem sitting down and watching all of them.
Yeah.
As a trilogy. Like, I don't hate this movie to the point that I need to, like, ignore its existence.
Yeah, well, but see, this is what I was saying kind of earlier, is we've lost the ability to be okay with a movie that is that, right? Like, if a movie is not either the greatest thing we've ever seen or such trash that we all get to talk about how so trash it is for the rest of its trashy trash, like that seems to be the only two attitudes you can take about a movie anymore. Like, you can't have a movie like this that has a lot of problems and not even in its content, just in the way that it's made. There's just some bad filmmaking going on in a lot of places here. There's no way for that kind of movie to still garner an audience. And if it does, then all we do is spend the rest of our time talking about how it didn't deserve it. Like, and it's just like, no, I don't feel any ill will towards this movie like some movies today. And I'll admit that even I am guilty of that. I'm not saying that I am free from that. I just wonder where I lost that ability, where we all did, right? To let a movie like this still be fun to watch despite the fact it's not great.
It's an interesting question, and one that, as the Say Report continues, we can try to solve, right? Yeah, everybody loves an overarching story. Maybe that's season 6.
Man.
Who knows? Yeah, so the last thing I want to talk about what I think is the best scene in this movie. And you can agree or you can disagree, but okay. I need to share it. And it is when Chief Stearns shows back up for what is kind of the best cameo in the film, which is one of the only things that really ties it to the first movie in any, like, significant way, is the fact that the same chief of police shows up, and that in that one scene where in the first movie he's just kind of an asshole, right?
Yes, yeah.
He gets to be, like, legitimately funny in the second movie. I'd like to ask you some more questions off the records. Well, Miss O'Neill, my record on the record about off the record is that there is no off the record regarding my record of being on the record with you. And it's just like, what the hell just happened? Did you cast a spell on me?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of fun in that moment, like, for sure.
He is the only person who it feels gets it.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, in terms of, like, this is a sequel to that other movie, and this is the sequel where we're just gonna have fun and be, like, palatable for the whole family. And he comes in and he steals the whole movie with that whole scene. And the best part is, as great as that scene is, as much as I will sing the praises of that scene, I forget about it every time.
Yeah.
Until I start hearing his voice, and I'm like, oh, the chief from the first movie?
That's right. The moment for me, the moment for me in this movie that, I'm sorry, I know it's corny as hell, but it still gets a good, like, guffaw out of me, is Splinter saying cowabunga after shooting the arrow. It is so dumb, but I think it is the most like deep, heartwarming chuckle emits from me whenever that moment happens.
And you know what? They did that on purpose.
Yeah,
because every moment leading up to that is just them, like, racing to the bottom of the barrel.
Oh man, it's all set up. It is build. It is like Family Guy levels of build for an hour to get to the butt of this joke.
I mean, and it just ramps it up in the lead up to that with the little two Raph. You know, based upon the geography and the setup of this area, I'd spring a trap on us right about Donatello wearing a watch for the first and only time of this film.
Just
Now,
for the joke, man. All for the bit.
and then they wind up in a giant net that there's no way they would have missed that net.
Yeah, there's no way they would have not seen that net. Yeah.
It's yeah, and then the tape and just rip my lips off next time.
Okay,
Just-
we've been talking about this movie too long because now I'm starting to think of Kung Pao Enter the Fist bits. We're like, oh no, a tiny net. Oh shit.
Yeah.
The only other moment that I really want to point out that also got a genuine giggle out of me is the police aren't coming. where he goes, never mind, they like it. It's okay.
Why did hire these extras? They're getting arrested. What? What if they're just people who came to your club dressed up like turtles? We're going to arrest them. We cannot stand for
The
that.
police, sir. What do they want? Well, it's fine now. They like it. Don't worry, guys. They'll come. They like it. I was just like, what a stupid. Like, the police are just going to be like, oh, never mind. It's okay, everybody. No crime in progress. They like it.
There was no crime in progress.
Ugh.
I don't know.
Yeah,
The
but
Dockside
police
Club
don't know
looks
that
cool.
at the point that they have been called.
That's a good point. Like, that guy did not just call, like, the number. He dialed the 911.
Right.
And then was like, there were guys dressed as turtles at the club. We didn't hire them. You gotta get down here. Bring the guns.
You promised me a conversation about pizza before we close this up, and I can't hold this back anymore. Devin, this movie made me not want pizza. For all of the shit about how the Turtles started this whole new trend in pizza like delivery becoming the #1 food delivery in the country, like this movie leans into that, and it's gross. There's so much chewing on pizza in the first 2 minutes of this film. I just never want to eat pizza ever again.
None of the pizza looks appetizing.
No,
at
it all looks like fucking just like cardboard with melted cheese on it. Like,
I mean, it's because it's
there's
props.
no sauce, there's no toppings.
The worst part is where they're like, oh, we brought dinner. Oh, pizza again? Which implies they've been living with April for a long time. Not, this is the next day from when we fought the Shredder. And they're like, yeah, pepperoni. And then that slice that he throws to Raphael, it has everything on it but pepperoni.
Oh, man.
Also,
Oh,
I'm a
God.
little mad, pizza-wise, about them turning Raphael in the movies into, like, a pizza-loving son of a bitch. Because I kind of like that, like, he's not a pizza guy in the first movie.
I'm sorry, but we are not focusing on how much pizza was
There's
in the
so
first
much.
2 minutes of this movie. Every single person, if somebody has not watched this movie, and I get that for some of the stuff that we've said so far, despite my thing at the beginning of this this episode, like, if you may not want to go see this movie now. So to describe to you how much pizza is in this first moment, there is a moment where we watch two police officers mid arresting a fellow who decide to stop and have a pizza.
Dude, everybody's
The
eating.
city is so obsessed with pizza that crime is allowed to run rampant because the cops are all eating pizza. That's why the Turtles need to exist.
Everybody loves pizza is the fourth note that I have written. That opening is so absurd.
It's
It
insane.
makes no sense. It just, I don't get it. I don't understand it at all. And every time I watch this movie, I'm just like, I get that the cartoon turtles love pizza, but they don't live in a world where everybody loves pizza.
Literally, the song playing, as I mentioned earlier, is titled NY Pizza. Like, that is how important it is to this moment. And I think what makes it even more absurd is that as the movie goes on, it no longer is a thing. Pizza is still present in the film, but not at that level. Like, that opening would have you think that every person that walks on screen is going to either be in the middle of swallowing their last bite or picking up another piece to start eating. But that's not what happens. So, like, the pizza, it was just like it was like Pizza Holiday in that first scene. But then after that, Pizza Day's over, so nobody eats pizza for the rest of the year. But on this one day a year, everybody pigs the fuck fuck out on pizza and just cheese pizza.
And not appetizing looking cheese pizza. That's the weirdest thing too, is that, I mean, this was filmed in North Carolina. That's the real secret of the Ooze, is that this movie is filmed in North Carolina.
Touche, man.
But for like, New York is known for its pizza, right? We're from New York. We got good pizza. They're not eating New York style pizza in any of those moments.
No, like they show some New York style pizza. There's definitely some big slices and some like nice cheese pull in a couple of moments for the people right in front of the camera, but anyone else around them is eating garbage.
Well, even though they're big slices and there's nice cheese pull, they're thick. It is thick pizza.
Yeah.
It is not the New York thin pizza at all. But while we're talking about New York, there is the fact that they're like, should we have brought bagels instead of donuts? And that is an underrated joke in this movie, is that they should have brought bagels, and the anti-mutagen could have been the schmear.
Oh God, yeah. Why did it have to be ice cubes? I don't know. I'm done talking about this movie.
It's so, and the anti-mutagen is so potent. They each only eat one ice cube. Like, I thought that they ate more.
It does work.
I don't get it. We've talked about this movie for its runtime. It's important to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film canon. Certainly, we will explore it later, but this is no 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I suggest you do like Joey from Friends, and if you watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles followed by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 right there.
Oh,
yeah, I can't recommend this one, but I also don't outwardly despise this film.
No,
it's
man,
just
it has a special place in my heart. It's the one that would be on TV all the time, right? Like Secret of the Ooze was like the one that was on at parties and all of that stuff because it was so closely related to the cartoon show. Like, no, man, I have too much nostalgia and too many memories tied to this movie to ever not want to watch it again. Like, I'm going to see this movie again in my life. I just, if you haven't seen it yet, don't feel the need to rush out to this one.
Yeah, it's the perfect piece of nostalgia, though. I will award it that, because it evokes all of your feelings of the first movie, whether you saw it that one weird time at a friend's sleepover and were like, that was not the Ninja Turtles I thought it was going to be, or you only watched the cartoon. This is the one that will make you go, oh, I remember the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Like, they did a good job with that, but in terms of this being a next day sequel to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, no. It is a different universe. This is the universe without Casey Jones, and look how bad things could be. Anything else to add, Sejan, before we send this one off to Will?
No, I don't think anyone is ever going to truly believe how much pizza is in the first 2 minutes of this movie until you see it yourself. So if there's any reason to see this movie, it's just so much pizza.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say, check it out. Watch this movie. If you've never seen it and you just listened to us talk about it for 96 minutes or so, it's worth watching at least one time if you've never seen it. And if you haven't seen it since you were a kid, watch it again. And I'm fairly certain it'll give you the warm fuzzies. And if it does give you the warm fuzzies or doesn't, either way, let Siege know at Siege versus the World.
And send pictures of pizza to Devin at Devin D. Decker.
I love it. Send me all your pictures of pizza. I'll eat them up, metaphorically speaking. But yeah, that's it. Happy holidays too, right? This is releasing on the 27th. So yeah, happy Turtle Dove Day.
Hope you have a good next year. Yeah, happy Turtle Dove Tuesday? No. Well, probably, if you're listening to this when we put it out.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's a Monday. Turtle Dove Day is a Monday. But, if you watch it on YouTube, right, those go up on Tuesday. So, enjoy it and hope you have it. And we'll see you next year, right? This is the last one of 2021. Any wisdom that you want to impart, Sejan?
What a way to see out this year. a subpar movie that just fits the bill and pretty much gets us on to the next one.
It's also a pretty good summation of what 1991 was, historically, right?
Fair enough.
So, 30 years later, and not much has changed in terms of the first year of a new decade. Will, why don't you bring us home, buddy? Have a good one, folks.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Stephen Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.